Hi everyone, welcome to the last unit for this course on argumentative essays. This is part one, going over the structure of an argumentative essay. Now let's go over some administrative details before we start the lesson. For this unit, I've tried to make it as concise as possible because this is the only unit that you've done completely virtually online. So part one, which is this narration, is going over the structure of an argumentative essay. Part two, I'm focusing on the language, which is presented in your textbook in Unit 4. I'm going to go over this information briefly. Most of the practice will be on you. Part three, I'm going to offer you a tutorial on how to write an argumentative essay. I will be brief as possible. However, I'm going to give you as much, or I should say as many details as I can, but I'm not going to take you through an entire essay. What I am going to do is show you how to outline it, the logic behind it, and I will give more detail in writing on this tutorial the counter argument, because this is the first time that you've been presented with a very specific body paragraph. The other ones I'll take you through and you should understand how to write body paragraphs by now. But for this tutorial, I'll take you through more so of the counter argument paragraph. So that'll be unique and interesting, and I think that will be very important for you so that you can write your argumentative essay. Now, all other interaction for this course will be for assignments only, and then also virtual office hours, which I have not posted as of this publishing of this PowerPoint, to help you with your questions, whether it's about your grades, which I can't, for all of you, there's 101 of you, I cannot answer every single detail about your grades. But I will do my best to at least give you what is the final grade that you have at the moment, so that you kind of know where you stand. But mostly I will want to answer questions about your essays, and I will give you more details as to how I will organize those virtual office hours. I'm going to end the course soon after the 3 parts of this lesson. And out of respect for my time, because there's a lot of grading I need to catch up on and update, as well as future grading, and also out of respect for your celebration of Ramadan. Okay, so that's how this unit will go. Next administrative detail, and then we'll move into the lesson. Most of you already know what's going on. Hopefully most of you do. Some of you are lost, so just really quickly, we have the citation practice assignment that's due at the latest this Sunday. So by the time of this posting of this lesson, the citation practice assignment is still relevant. So April 17th is when it's due, but I've given 2 days grace period. So you have up until Sunday, April 19th by 11:59 p.m. your time zone on Moodle. Okay, so that practice is simply, you are just finding 2 possible sources from your cause and effect topic/thesis, and the whole point of the assignment is just to show that you followed along and you know how to do citations properly in MLA format. So if you have not looked at the resources that I've posted on the Facebook group or the previous tutorials, you might want to have a look at that pretty quickly so you can get this assignment done. And this is just 10 points. If you make more than 2 mistakes, then I'm marking you 7 out of 10. Okay, so this is a quick grading assignment. Then you'll have the final draft of the process analysis essay, which was on the holiday or festival. The final draft is due on April 30th by 11:59 p.m. your time zone on Moodle. Some of you received feedback. A lot of you did not, because you did not put your names on the actual essay. Even if you submit things through Moodle, if you don't put your name in the file name or on the essay, what happens is that when I do a batch download from Moodle/turnitin.com, it's very hard for me to go back and look at individual submissions. So you have to write your name on the file or the essay. And in your case, for an essay, you always have to write your name on the essay. So this is common sense. There's no argument about it. I'm not listening to excuses from grade school, to write your name on your work, whether it's an essay or not. So that's no excuse. And if you didn't write a header, that means that you did not pay attention to what I discussed in class and all of my Facebook posts. You're not keeping up. I know it's a lot, but sorry, this is the way it is. You have to keep up. So if you did not do that, then you do not get feedback. Sorry. So what you'll have to do is follow the prior instructions. And if you need help, then you can get help from some of your peers in the class that could look over and proofread your essay again. Follow the formats that I've already posted in the resources section or the different units. You can also join the virtual office hours or Q&A sessions so that you can ask some specific questions, okay? So you've already done it. All you have to do is proofread it again, make any changes that you need to, and then submit the final draft. The next final draft will be the next final draft is your argumentative essay. So right now you're just finishing the unit. So if you've started on writing the essay, hopefully you haven't gotten too far because you may not understand the structure just yet, but you could have already started thinking about your topic, which would have been a good idea. So that final draft at the moment is due May 5th. I might push it back to like May 2nd. I haven't decided yet, but at the moment, the final deadline is May 5th. Okay, again, that is due by 11:59 p.m. in your time zone. The final draft of the process analysis essay, I will grade it according to the instructions I've given you before. The argumentative essay, I will grade a little bit harder because you have everything in your argumentative essay. Citations, internal citations, formatting, everything. Okay, the final exam, which is the big announcement, will be handled by the Department of English. I've already told the chair and the dean that I am releasing responsibility of myself for your final exam. The department can handle it. So either Dr. Sofyan or another professor can handle the final exam. Since the information about finals has not been concise or finalized due to this emergency situation, I'm taking you all the way up until your portfolio. And then I am releasing you right after I post those grades and that information. I'm releasing you to someone else for your final. I will likely advise the next person about what you've learned in this class and what you're capable of doing. But in terms of writing the final, grading it, being responsible for it, I am releasing that responsibility. So my hands are clean of that. And the reason for that is partly because of the situation and partly because when I try to, show you guys a way out of the situation, you pushed back and said we don't want our argumentative essay to be double counted without considering that I could have made the rubric a little bit simpler. But that's okay. A lot of you aren't comfortable with it, so you have to have a different kind of final, a separate assignment, and that's going to be out of my hands. Okay, so the next few assignments are all me. The only thing that will be graded externally or handled externally will be the final exam. All right, so let's get into the lesson finally. If you've been following along with the previous tutorials and the Q&A session on Zoom, you will know that I have already talked about argumentative essays. However, this is the official start of the unit. Therefore, I will be talking about these points again and going into more detail. Now, what is an argumentative essay? It is often interchangeably known as a persuasive essay. However, they're different. You will remember that I discussed persuasive essays in class. An argumentative essay uses facts and figures, evidence such as statistics and logic in order to prove the writer's opinion. And the writer's opinion is set. There's no neutrality. It's either agree or disagree. It's yes or no. Okay, there's no gray area. There's no maybe. You need to choose a side. Okay, you need to argue a point. Now, a persuasive essay, the purpose of the persuasive essay is to be coaxing and convincing. You want to convince the other, the other side of your beliefs or of your point, or to do something. So therefore, the language and the sources that are used in persuasive are often rhetoric. And when we talk about rhetoric, it's not hard facts, so to speak. It's more like thoughts, ideas, being coaxing. And persuasive essays, the writers use certain rhetorical devices or techniques to persuade the audience. So, for example, advertisements. Okay, advertisements are great examples of persuasive rhetoric. It's not really built in on fact. It's more so built into the mind, psychology. All right. So argumentative is pretty much all about the hard facts. Okay. I'm using statistics and research in order to prove my point. And my language in argumentative essays, the language is going to be much more assertive. I won't say aggressive, but I'll say assertive, because you are stating your opinion as fact and you're choosing a side. Okay, you're still going to show that you're open-minded, which is, I'll talk about that in just a moment. However, you're not going to go back and forth in between. You've chosen a position, you're stating it as fact, and you're saying, I have the evidence to back me up. Okay, whereas persuasive, you may not have the evidence to back you up, but you're using certain psychological techniques in order to convince the audience. See the difference? Or can you tell the difference? So, argumentative essays are much easier to write because you're relying on research and logic and statistics to help back up your opinion. In a persuasive essay, you're really using psychology, and it's a certain art that you have to master in order to write a good persuasive essay. And this is why I don't think this is a good idea for a beginning course. All right, so we're going to, I think the book also agrees in a certain sense. We're going to focus on argumentative. Okay, so I mentioned that the language is assertive because the writer states his or her opinion as fact, whether that's the thesis or anything else written in the essay, the topic, sentences, and also the support, of course, usually is some kind of hard facts. Now, does that mean that an argumentative essay cannot use any rhetoric? No, that doesn't mean that they as the writers can't use some kind of persuasive techniques. Sure, it can be used, but usually we like to use logic. As writers, we want to use logic for an argumentative essay. Does that mean that persuasive essays do not use hard facts like statistics and logic? No, not necessarily, but the majority is psychological. Okay? Now, in the last part on the slide, it says that the writer chooses a position on a usually controversial topic. Remember, we talked about controversial in class. Controversial means that society typically does not agree with this topic, and societies differ from country to country, culture to culture. Okay? What's controversial in my country may not be controversial in your country, and vice versa. Okay? So topics that you're arguing should be controversial. That means that when you state your opinion, it really should kind of bother somebody, right? So, for example, wearing the hijab in Palestine probably wouldn't be controversial, right? it's not an issue that goes against society. It doesn't grate anybody's nerves. Most people do it. Most people expect it for women, so to speak, depending on, the religion or whoever, the family. But, it's nothing controversial. Now, in the US, wearing the hijab might be considered controversial because it goes against the norm, so to speak. Even though there are many Muslims represented, unfortunately, after 9/11, we had a lot of xenophobic, Islamophobic sentiments, and now it's more so controversial, right? So for me, writing on a topic such as the hijab in America or even in France, I'm sure you know about that one. Choosing that as my topic was a good idea, depending on my society. So don't choose a topic that's really not controversial in that particular society. And like I said, there are many topics that you can choose from. Maybe you're interested in a topic that is not controversial in your society. Okay, fine. You can talk about it. I did not give you a limitation. You can talk about whatever you want to. Okay. But also controversial means that it is a topic. So for example, are people really talking about, whether the sky is blue or not? Like, is that really a controversial topic? Is that a controversial topic? I don't really hear about a lot of people talking about that. So that would not be a topic to choose, right? Now, whether the earth is round or flat, believe it or not, that topic has resurfaced, and that is a thing. Okay, so that is a topic, right? You could write about that if you wanted to, because it is actually an argument that people are having. Okay, so make sure it's relevant. You should not present too much neutrality in your essay. You got to stick to your side. You agree or you disagree. Don't go back and forth between agree and disagree. If you try to be in the middle and neutral on a topic, or you feel that you're neutral on a topic, don't choose that topic, because you're really not going to write a good argumentative essay. Okay? The whole point of arguing is I want to argue my side. So why are you in the middle? Okay? The only neutrality that you should ever present in your essay should be in the counterargument paragraph. And I will talk about the counterargument in more detail a little bit later. This is when you present the opposition's opinion, where you actually agree in some part with your opposition, and then afterwards you refute it. And that's the only reason why you can have any neutrality in that part, is because you are going to simply reject their opinion, or his or their opinion, let's just say their opinion anyway. All right, so that is the basic structure of an argumentative essay. Now, let's keep going. Go ahead and open up your book to page 93 if you have not already. In your textbook, we're on page 93. So I just talked to you about the purpose of an argumentative essay. Let's talk about the actual structure. Remember that the structure of an academic essay is always going to be the same. However, for different essays, for different types of essays, some of the parts are going to change a little bit, or you're going to have to focus on something specific for a certain part. So we've already talked about what an argumentative essay is. In your introduction, you have three parts, right? Your three parts, you have the hook, which is the first sentence of your entire essay. Then you have the background information that gives us more details. And then you have your thesis statement, always, always, always. So there's always three parts to your introduction paragraph. And if you watch the previous tutorial, excuse me, if you've watched the previous tutorial, you will know that I also talked to you a little bit about transition statements. So I had to take a sip of water. I talked to you about transition statements. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that here because I already have and I want to stay focused. So you introduce the issue in your hook for an argumentative essay. Just like you introduce the topic in any other hook, you're doing the same thing for argumentative essay. Your background, you're going to give us some more information on the issue and why is it important. You can talk about the history of the issue, the history of the people involved. You can talk about what it is they want, how it affects them, however you want to give the background information. Okay? Just pretend like your audience is ignorant and has no real knowledge of the issue. Maybe they're aware that it exists, but they don't know that many details. So unlike the cause and effect essay, I am not expecting you, nor should you, give me an entire paragraph, on the background. Don't do that. Now, if you were to write a much longer essay for a different class and you really wanted to, sure, okay. But for argumentative essay, it's perfectly acceptable and expected that you can be brief about the background in your introduction, be concise, tell me about the main points of the background, and get to the point, okay? The point is to argue, right? So if someone wants to look at more details about the issue, he or she can do that, all right, on his or her own time. So give some background. And your introduction paragraph, as you have seen in my tutorial, does not have to be one sentence or two. Well, the whole paragraph does not have to be 3 sentences. Okay, your introduction can be much longer. It gets a little bit excessive when you hit like maybe 6 sentences. Like I would still keep it at about 5. But remember, when you use a variety of sentences, like complex, compound, you can fit more details in those sentences, okay? So always strive to use a variety of sentence structures, okay? And then of course, you have your thesis, right? And in this case, your thesis clearly states your point of view about the issue. Again, agree or disagree, yes or no, no neutrality. Okay, that's your introduction. In your body, it's a little bit different than maybe some other essays that you've heard about. Of course, in your body, your topic sentences should be very clear about the reason for your opinion. Okay, should be very clear in your topic sentences. And you're going to have 2. That's right, you're going to have 2 body paragraphs that really focus on your argument. All right, so those have to be very clear and straight to the point. Of course, all the details have to support your topic sentences, and you're going to be using a lot of facts, examples, statistics, definitions, logic like cause and effects, quotes, anecdotes, which are like, you know what anecdotes are, questions, so on and so forth. Okay, now, what's different is that in your body paragraphs, one of your body paragraphs is going to be about the counterargument. Okay? An entire paragraph should be dedicated to your counterargument. And I think I've answered that on a Q&A Zoom session. Someone asked me, is it just part of the background or do you mention it? No, it's an entire paragraph. It should be an entire paragraph. Okay, and so in this special paragraph, it presents your opposition's argument, aka the counter argument. Counter means against. Okay, so against your opinion. So you're going to clearly state that. And I'll give you the structure in a little bit. And then you're going to agree with it. Then you're going to disagree with it. And then you're going to refute it or reject it. So the whole point of this special paragraph is to tell the reader that you are well-rounded. Okay? You know and understand your opposition's argument, which shows that you are a real fighter in the game, right? So that means that you have come prepared for a debate. And then you are going to look at a point or the point of your opposition's argument and agree with it to some extent to show that you are open-minded, right? Because if you seem like you don't consider any other opinions or any other logic, then you come across as closed-minded and you lose reputation, right? So agreeing with your opposition shows that you are open-minded, but then you're going to go back and reject it, and you're going to use your logic, in your opinion, to instead reject your opposition's opinion and show how your opposition is actually weak, okay, in terms of the argument. So you're going to show that the counter argument is in fact weak and fragile, and it can't stand up to your argument. Yours is the strong one. Not even stronger, it's the best, it's strong, right? So that's the whole point of that paragraph. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more details about the placement of that paragraph. All right, so hold off. This is just an overview. Then your conclusion, as you already know, has 2 to 3 parts, right? The first sentence should restate your thesis. Now, you can offer a solution in that first sentence if you want to. I think you need to really be clear with the structure so you guys don't struggle. Paraphrase your thesis. And then for the rest of the conclusion, you have time to give your opinion. So it could be a prediction, a warning, or you can make a comment that, reinforces your viewpoint. Okay? And then at the end, you need to tie up the entire essay. You want to leave the reader with a lasting impression. All right? So that's your conclusion. Remember, you are arguing your point. So your conclusion, it's important for you to really leave the reader with something special, right? But you're not putting new information into your conclusion. And a reminder that only in your body paragraphs are you using internal citations. So you should not be using quotes or statistics or any kinds of facts or paraphrasing any outside sources in your introduction or in your conclusion. Okay, so conclusion, it should be easier to understand that. For your introduction, in your background information, this is background that you know and understand. Do not paraphrase anything. If you cannot, in your own words, write a few sentences about the topic that you're writing on, you might want to study that topic more. Okay, I don't want to see any internal citations in the introduction or conclusion. I don't want to see any sentences that were paraphrased in the introduction or conclusion. It's incorrect. That should only be in your body paragraphs. All right, so now we understand the focus, rhetorical focus of an argumentative essay and the structure. Let's get into a little bit more specific detail so you can see what I mean. Okay, we're still on page 93, and we're going to look at the student essay. It's about breaking the rules. What are these rules that the writer is talking about? The writer is talking about plagiarism. Okay, we know that plagiarism is usually against all academic policies, whether it is grade school or college or in professional life as well. Plagiarism is when students copy and paste someone else's work or claim someone else's work without giving proper citations. So because you guys are using research and you're required to cite your sources now, unlike in previous assignments, I think that this is very important. not only for the structure of an argumentative essay, but just also to remind you as a student, don't plagiarize. Okay? Copying and pasting is not cool. All right, so now that you know what this essay is about, let's break it down for easy analysis. Now, find the thesis. Great. However, plagiarism is irresponsible from a social and academic standpoint. So this thesis is like a continuation of what the writer has already said in the background/transition, okay? So the writer talks about plagiarism in the topic sentence of the introduction and says, to achieve a good grade, students are sometimes tempted to cheat. One of the most frequent ways of cheating is to buy essays off the internet. Okay, so in this way, the writer specifically is talking about plagiarism, but also just being completely lazy, right? This may result in a good grade, and then the writer negates that by saying, however, plagiarism is irresponsible from a social and academic standpoint. Notice the language in the thesis didn't say students should not plagiarize or students should not cheat. No, the writer has a clear point. Plagiarism is bad. Why? It's irresponsible from a social standpoint, so socially, and from an academic standpoint, academically. Okay, so it's clear. The first topic sentence says, first, plagiarism is socially unacceptable. The language is strong, the language is clear, and this is a clear reason, okay, that supports the writer's thesis. So in the thesis, it says that plagiarism is irresponsible from a social and an academic standpoint. We're going to have two topic sentences. Well, I shouldn't say that. You're going to have three, but you're going to have two topic sentences that discuss your argument, because the third one is going to be the counter, right? So in this point, this goes directly to the thesis. In the thesis, the writer mentioned from a social standpoint, why is plagiarism bad? So in order, the writer writes about that aspect. And so I expect in that paragraph that the writer is going to talk about how plagiarism is socially unacceptable. Okay? Now, this writer's support is mostly going to be rhetoric. Not rhetoric. I just said no. Not rhetoric. It's going to be mostly logic, whether it's cause and effect, or just level of importance. So we can look at the first body paragraph and we can see some cause and effect language, can't we? If a student plagiarizes, he or she violates that trust. Okay, we go on with logic in this term, cause and effect, and other types of logic. Okay, logic just means it makes sense. Okay, sorry about the rhetoric comment. No, not rhetoric, logic. Anyway. Okay, so in the next topic sentence, we have plagiarism is also wrong because it is against academic policy. Now, in the thesis statement, the writer spoke about what? The writer spoke about academic standpoint, right? So plagiarism is irresponsible from an academic standpoint, right? So in the second body paragraph, we can expect that the writer is going to talk about why plagiarism is also wrong academically, okay? It goes against academic policy. So I'm sure the writer is going to tell us some information about typical academic policies. All right. Now, the third body paragraph is the counterargument. Again, the counterargument can be the first body paragraph, or it could be the third body paragraph, okay? And I say again because I think I mentioned that in the Q&A session, all right? So It could be the first or the third. I will present more about the counter-argument paragraph in a later slide. It's typically more common that the counter-argument paragraph is the third body paragraph. It's like the icing on the cake. It's like after you've explained your point, now you're going to look at your opposition and refute them, right? But you can put it at the beginning of the body paragraphs, and I'll tell you why later. So this writer chose to put it in the third body paragraph. Good. Now notice that the topic sentence is opposite of the writer's opinion. That is correct because this is the counter-argument. So in the topic sentence for the counter-argument paragraph should be the counter-argument. So it says here, it is true that many students at community colleges have busy schedules and may have trouble completing their assignments on time. Is this incorrect? Again, no, it is not, because this is the counter-argument paragraph. This would be wrong if you were to write the entire paragraph about the counter-argument. And I have seen this in students' work before, that they think, oh, the counter-argument paragraph, I need to talk about the counter-argument in the entire paragraph. No, because then what you just did is you refuted your entire essay by yourself. You refuted it because you gave too much talk time to your opposition and you did not put your refutation. You did not reject your opposition's opinion. So it looks like you agree with your opposition. Actually, it just looks like a hot mess, right? So this to me is a brilliant structure. The first two body paragraphs directly support and explain your argument or your side of the argument. And the third body paragraph is your counter argument paragraph. Okay? Then we have the conclusion. So the first sentence is a restatement or paraphrase of the thesis. He says or she says, I believe that university authorities should discourage plagiarism by making students more aware of the problems it causes. So in this way, the writer has paraphrased the argument from his or her thesis. Okay, so we know it's about plagiarism and basically plagiarism is bad. What the writer also did was added his or her evaluation or solution in the restatement of the thesis. And you can do the same way if you feel comfortable. And then, of course, expand on that, which the writer has done on page 94. Okay. But you're not going to present any new information, of course. So the writer says that plagiarism damages classroom relationships. So we have some evaluation and opinion. It also violates school policies and prevents students from realizing their own potential. If we do not stop plagiarism, many students will lose out on their education. So the sentences that follow the restatement actually are summarizing his or her main points. Plagiarism damages classroom relationships. It also violates school policies and prevents students from realizing their own potential. And the evaluation is the last sentence, which also ties up the entire essay. If we do not stop plagiarism, many students will lose out on their education. Brilliant. Okay. Now, as you can see on the screen, you are not allowed to use first person. Okay. As you can see, it says I, and you are not allowed to use I, me, we, us, our, none of it. Okay. You have to use third person only. Even in your counter argument, you can't say anything about I or my opinion. Okay, everything is in third person. Why? Because you are writing academic essays and you have to get used to writing in academia, especially you guys are mostly English majors and minors. You have to get used to writing in the third person because that is what academia calls for. Okay, now that explains the structure or gives you an example, I should say, of an argumentative essay, we do need to look at the counterargument section. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so earlier I talked about a counterargument. Now let's be a little bit more specific. A counterargument is when the writer presents his or her opposing opinion, basically, okay, the opposite opinion. So in an argumentative essay, it is expected that an entire paragraph is dedicated to the counterargument. Now, it can either be the first or the third body paragraph in your essay. It could be first or third. Now, it is most common that writers will write the counterargument as the third body paragraph. Why? Like I said before, it's like the icing on the cake. It's like the last part. You've dedicated all this time to present your argument, and now you want to end with the opposition, and then you want to kind of slap them in the face and prove your opposition wrong. But it can also be first. You can also do it first. Why? Because some people want to, or I should say some writers want to emphasize the counterargument before getting into the nitty-gritty details of his or her own argument. You want to emphasize the opposition, just like present the opposition and then prove the opposition wrong throughout the essay. Go for it. I mean, you could do it either way. Like I said, first or third, fine. Third is more typical, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. If it makes more sense to you as a writer, if you like that style better, if for you it's just more logical just to get the counter argument out of the way and then present your own opinion in the next two body paragraphs, go for it. Okay, so either way, it's not wrong. I'm just going to tell you that typically it's the third body paragraph, but you don't have to be the normal. That's fine. So again, its purpose is to make the writer look open-minded and the writer to look prepared for the argument/debate. Okay, makes the writer look good. And by looking good, that means that the writer has a better reputation and more likely their audience will be convinced by this writer. Okay, so persuasive is when we're using certain psychology to do it, whereas the psychology behind an argumentative essay is logic, statistics, and being straightforward. So you can convince the audience of your argument when you use logic and when you show a good reputation. Okay, so that's what an argumentative essay does. It shows, when you do your counter argument, it shows you're credible. Okay, and this is not optional. I need to make that a point. So if you think that, okay, well, I don't care about, giving the counter argument. I don't care about what she's saying about being credible or something. It is required. This is mandatory that when you submit your argumentative essay, if one of your body paragraphs is not a counter argument, it's crap. That's right. I said it. It's crap. It's trash. Not even going to go any further than that. You're going to get a bad grade because you did not write a well-written argumentative essay. The point of these assignments is not for you just to write some essays so I can say check, check, check and get a paycheck. No, it's for you to write accordingly to the norms and guidelines and rules that are established for you to be better writers, because you've chosen this path in your career. You've chosen to be English majors and English minors. So therefore, your whole profession and life is to use language to express yourself. So I expect you to do that to its fullest potential. Okay, and there's certain guidelines that we just have to follow. So yes, in summary, you have to write a counter-argument paragraph, whether it's first or third. Okay, so now go ahead and go to page 100 in your textbook, and I'm just going to go over the actual structure of the counter-argument paragraph. This is the last part of today's lesson. So I'm going to talk to you about the counter-argument paragraph. As I already told you, make sure that you're on page 100, but I have done the slide a little bit differently than what you'll see in the book, just to make it clearer, hopefully more clear. Anyway, so your topic sentence is your counter-argument. In one sentence, you should be able to concisely summarize what is the main counter-argument, what is the main opposite opinion to yours. So when I say main, you may have more than one counter-argument, okay? Or I shouldn't say that you will have. There may be more than one counter-argument. You have to choose one. And from your research, you should choose the one that is not only the most important, but the one that you've seen the most, okay? If 2 people have said one thing versus 16 have said something else, you want to go with the majority, okay? Not only is it easier for you to refute, it's logical, right? You go with the majority's opinion. In my case, from the example that I used, I had 2 counter arguments that I presented in my tutorial. Remember that my topic that I'm working on for demonstration purposes is that COVID-19, the global pandemic, the global pandemic COVID-19 has positively influenced the environment, right? So I have 2 counter arguments. One, which is the majority, say that it's just not enough to reverse the damage that has been done to the earth. Okay. The second one is that more waste is going to just be produced anyway, just in different forms. Okay. So I feel that I need to go with the majority because that makes logical sense. And then also I have more to say. All right. So you're going to present that, of course, in third person and in your topic sentence. Then your support has 2 parts. Okay. You have the concession and the refutation. So concession is basically when you agree, okay, to disagree. All right. So this is showing that you are open-minded. This is showing that you can understand your opposition's point of view. However, it's wrong. Okay. So in this way, that's what concession means in this kind of way. You're conceding to your opposition by agreeing with the opposition, but you're still going to prove them wrong. Okay. So in this part, you're going to agree with the main point of your opposition's argument. So for example, I may say in my case, which I will show you in the tutorial, that it is understandable that the damage that has been done to the earth cannot be reversed in a matter of a couple of months. However, okay, so that's exactly what you're doing. So you can see that I agreed. I said it is understandable. And I did not say I understand. I said it is understandable. Why? Because I cannot use first person, right? So I have to practice what I preach. Okay, so then you're going to disagree with them. So this is where you use different language like however, okay? And then what you're going to do is show that you disagree and that your argument is stronger. Okay, now I can combine my sentence or I can put a period and make a new sentence. All right. However, there is a great possibility that one of the effects of the COVID-19 global pandemic is that it changes human psychology to be less wasteful. For those of you that have been following along with the tutorials, you will have heard all of this before. Okay? And that is exactly the concession. I agreed with my opposition and then I disagreed with them. Okay? Your concession should be short, sweet, and to the point. If it can be one sentence, beautiful. If you need to make it 2 sentences, okay, no problem. But if you make it too long, you risk becoming off topic And by becoming off topic, you may instead prove your opposition to be right. You don't want to say too much about the counter argument because it might start looking good to your opposition, or to your readers, I should say. It might start, yeah, oh, I can see that person's point better than the writer. You don't want to do that, right? So make it short, sweet, and simple. Okay? Agree and then quickly disagree. And then your refutation, all you're doing is you're expanding on why your point is stronger. Okay? So in this part, you will explain how your opposition's argument is weak or flawed and show that yours is strong. Not even stronger, actually, just strong in general. You're the winner. So what I may say, and you're just going to get this again in the tutorial because it's not going to change. What I may say or I may explain is how, in order for any change to happen in the world, bad things often have to happen in order for us to learn. Humans oftentimes learn the hard way. Human psychology has to go through trauma in order to change, and possibly this trauma will, benefit humanity actually than hurt it in the long run. Okay, so that's going to be how I explain my refutation. You see how easy that was? It's not hard at all, because when you make an argument and you choose a topic, this is why I want you to choose the topic, not me. When you choose a topic that you care about, and when you choose a side, if you haven't already, maybe you choose an argument that you've always been feeling for a long time. And when you choose a side, it is so much easier for you to do a counter argument paragraph, because you already know why you're right. You're just putting it down in words in a certain structure. That's it. That's all you're doing, guys. That's it. So, of course, you know that there should be some kind of transition or conclusion sentence in your body paragraphs. This is something you already know. Okay, then there's nothing really special for an argumentative essay. I will just let you know that in a counter argument paragraph, if you choose for it to be the first one, the first body paragraph, I suggest that your last sentence is a transition to help flow into the next topic, which is, of course, strictly your argument. Okay? If you choose to write your counter argument as the third body paragraph, then I suggest that your last sentence should be a conclusion. And that means that you are wrapping up, you are summing up the topic for that paragraph, which is the counter argument, right? That's my suggestion. And that's it. That is it in a nutshell. So yes, this tended to be a long lesson again. However, I will say that hopefully you find that this information is thorough, and I hope that by me explaining and giving you analogies helps you to understand where I'm coming from, and also help you to better understand how realistic this is. When you're arguing with your friends, what do you do naturally? Right? This is exactly what you do. It may not be so structured as this, but some of the structure is the same. You're going to present your points. But before you even get to that, if the person doesn't know about what you're arguing, then you give that person or that person, or your friend, I should say, your friend some background, and then you're going to give your friend some details about it as to why you're correct. And then oftentimes your friend is going to interrupt you and present his or her point, which is the counter argument. Okay? And then you are going to take that information, and then you are going to, because it's your friend, you're going to concede and say, okay, I can see your point on that, but, okay, and then you're going to disagree with your friend, and then you're going to give your reason as to why your friend is wrong. Okay? That's an argument, guys. If you've never had an argument in your life, then I don't know if you've lived really, but if any of you have had an argument or watched someone argue, then you know that this is not too new. This is not new. You're just going to write it down in an essay format in English, in a different language. That's all. That's it. Okay, guys. So what you can expect again in the next lesson is the language focus as presented in Unit 4. If you are listening to this lesson before 4:30 p.m. on April 16th, then you have time to write down your questions and ask me at that Q&A Zoom session. If you're listening to this after April 16th, you will have another opportunity to ask me questions about the argumentative essay as presented in this lecture. Stay tuned for the next lesson and stay tuned for the tutorial. If you have any questions that needs to be answered right now, you can always post that question or comment on the Facebook post. I would highly recommend just going ahead and waiting to the Zoom session. If you have a personal question, of course, you can Facebook message me. Unless, of course, it's about a topic that I've already answered, then you need to go back and really review those posts, guys. Okay, guys, I hope you are staying safe and stay healthy. Take care until next time.